Well, the good weather continues on. Of course, there's a southerly breeze. That's pretty well a given. But at least it's been sunny weather now for 10 days or more, I would estimate. However, this morning I looked up the Cairns Post online and they said it was the coolest morning of the year. I didn't actually notice that much. I didn't go out on my balcony admittedly, but and I did wake up. I got up about 5:30. I tend to get up really early up here. I don't know what it is, but a combination of getting older and being in a different environment. But yeah, the weather's pretty ordinary, unfortunately, as far as wind is concerned. So I don't know how long I'll keep recording, but I didn't go out on the weekend, so I'll have to get some shopping done today. And it was just very surprising how quiet it was walking back from the restaurant, the Italian restaurant on Friday night, you know, around a little after 9 o'clock, and it was just no one around, pretty dead. So in spite of the fact there's about 145,000 people in the Cairns area, you wouldn't know it. Yeah, they seem to be working on this new building here. It's some sort of a warehouse, I think, for roofing, but always constant work taking place, getting the place ready. I don't know why it's taking so long, but there seems to be a constant work in progress. I hope that the generic Parmesan cheese is actually finally available at Coles, because for over a month now, maybe 6 weeks, there hasn't been any on the shelves though. And it's about half the price of the other stuff, and personally I think it tastes fine. As a matter of fact, the Mill L brand, I keep picking up the ones that's actually shaved, and I don't quite like that actually. It's sort of like shaved lumps of Parmesan. I prefer it to be shredded. So they did have that variety last time, it's fine, but the generic one's fine. Probably comes from the same factory, it's probably the same stuff, just a different package. But I'm wondering whether there's some dispute between the owners, so like the Mill L brand and whatever, you're not happy about having this generic product on the shelves. But I mean, they do it with everything else. Actually, it's not too bad breeze-wise here. It's actually reasonable. This is one of the better days. Just a soft breeze, but it's probably not going to be stuffing up the audio. It's good. So I started the day today like I do most days. I go and check out all my subscription channels that I've got on YouTube. A lot of political stuff from the States and the UK. And the one that's the most prolific is Tim Pool, who's an American guy, and he's majority Anglo heritage, but he's also has a bit of Korean in him. I think about a quarter Korean, and so but he's fairly liberal in social issues, but he is getting a bit jacked of the political correctness around, and his audience, even though he's quite small L liberal, he's actually attracting a fairly conservative, disillusioned audience. People like myself but he has got his conservative streak too. He's a sort of a more pragmatic type of guy, and he doesn't like aspects of the crazy political correctness that's gone on lately with things like gender ID and all that crap. But it's just got too much for most people who have got a smidgen of sanity in them that just can't handle it. And I think even people going to uni must be getting pretty tired of it by now. That's where it's all basically where it's flourishing the most, I would think, there in the media. And the media's been totally discredited. It's just every day the mainstream media seems to lose more and more trust with people and becoming less and less relevant. So it's fighting a losing battle. And I think some places like the New York Times, which has been a pretty bad exponent of that sort of crap, they've actually tried to pull back a little bit recently, but then again they bounced back the other way just after they seemed to be reforming a little, getting diversity of ideas. Then they went back to their old ways of towing the PC line. So it's very strange, it's hard to pick, but I do believe that the edifice of of this stuff is just collapsing, because it just can't possibly go on. I mean, it's like the ridiculously hardcore feminist stuff where they're always complaining about equality of income. We've went through that debate back in the 70s, and women were granted equal pay, and I thought that would be the end of it. But these people can never be satisfied. It's never enough. And then you have situations like with the ANZ Bank actually paying female employees $500 more in super a year. And do you hear anybody crying about that as being inequitable? No. Apparently that's fine. So work it out. It just doesn't make sense. It's just ridiculous. And, you know, I believe in equality. And, you know, it's just... I don't want having a war between the sexes is doing no one any good. I don't think either sex is particularly happy about the situation, apart from the hardcore extremists on either side who can make capital out of it. But for normal people, it's no good. Oh, I actually saw a video too. It was Tom Gleeson, who was one of the DGen guys, and he did a satirical look at Cairns, and I'll put the link down in the description so you can actually watch it yourself. It was a bit it wasn't very complimentary. I mean, there are things you can put shit on up here, there's no doubt about that, but conversely I could put shit on a place like Melbourne quite easily too. Every place has its pros and cons. And, you know, like I say, it was satire, so you expect him to do it. That's what he was trying to do, and he achieved his goal. But actually had a few people who apparently are local, like claim to be Cairns locals, and actually said they agreed with a lot of things he said. So it was quite interesting. But again, it's comedy, and I'm not going to be the last person to knock someone for saying what they think in comedy. I mean, that's it. Comedy's been killed by political correctness, so I'll be the last person to have a go at someone like Tommy G for satirising a place like this. But it's sort of, in a way, it's funny because it is my home now, so I feel a little defensive. So, and I feel less empathetic, that's the word I'm looking for, towards Melbourne. I really don't miss it that much. Some friends, that's about it. But apart from that, I don't miss the lifestyle at all. You know, like I could just going to that restaurant last night, I could just walk there and back. In Melbourne, I'd have to catch public transport, go for all that sort of hassle, and it'd take longer, it'd be more of a hassle. It wasn't super cheap though, I've got to say. The restaurant, you know, but again, I'm sheltered. I eat at home all the time, so I avoid paying out big money. But it actually ended up costing about 35 bucks. I didn't tip them, although I've got to say the waitress was very good. I had no problem with them. They probably deserved a tip, but it wasn't cheap. The gnocchi was about 21 bucks for a small gnocchi, I think, and the glass of wine was 12 bucks, cab sab. And they're not outrageous prices, but it's just that I just don't go out that much, so I get bargains at places like PJ's, so it's what you get used to. But you know, that's typical Australia. It's probably good in a way. It gives me that reference. It reminds me of how good I'm actually doing here with keeping the costs down. Oh, maybe Tommy G's onto something. I just on the way back from the supermarket passed by this guy who is totally bare-chested down to his jocks. Well, he was wearing pants, I think, but his gut was hanging out. And as soon as he passed by me, he started talking to himself. Yes, some of the character that you get up here. Oh boy, I'm not in any luck with the lights today. Oh, don't you love those double loaders, or whatever they're called, articulated trucks, ones that had a good education. Monday morning, It's a beautiful morning though. It's actually quite nice and not cold at all. Once the sun comes out, it warms up pretty fast, and I'd say it's in the low 20s. Very pleasant. You can see very clear near the hills going to the west. The Great Dividing Range, I presume. Behind there, the Atherton tablelands. Yes, the guy who did my plastering said that you can't grow veggies here because the moisture's too high, and if the veggies do end up growing, they'll be attacked by insects. So you're really in a bind. So that's why all the those vegetables come from the Atherton tablelands over there in the west, and it's much cooler, more conducive to growing those sorts of crops, sorts of plants. But down here in where it's high humidity, and this used to be a swamp, remember, where we are right now. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment, or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.